Welcome to another edition of Seminoles Daily. I'm your host, Rob Krause, wishing you all a happy Friday. That's right, it is Friday, but more importantly, it is a football Friday because it is game week Friday, 24 hours from now. That's right, 24 hours, one day away from the start of the 2026 Florida State football season. We have made it, man. We have made it through the long slog of the offseason. We have made it through the long slog of camp. We have made it through all of that malaise and all of those questions and all of the speculation that we've had about Mike Norvell and Deuce Robinson and Ashton Daniels and the defense and Tony and the Nasir twins and every single person that we've talked about all of the last several months. It's all come down to this. All of those questions, all that speculation will be answered over the course of the next 3-4 months. Hopefully, some good news. Hopefully, it's maybe even 5 months. Maybe it rolls into late January as the Noles go on a miracle Cinderella run, or maybe it's just a significant season of change for the overall program as well. Either way, all of those questions will be answered, and it all starts tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Tallahassee, Florida, Doak Campbell Stadium, Bobby Bowden Field on the CW if you're staying at home and watching. And we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the edges on offense and defense for both teams. We're going to talk a little bit some of the keys to victory. And then finally, of course, we are going to talk about what's going to happen and who's going to win. This is going to be our Football Friday prediction preview threads format for the rest of the season. So glad to have you aboard here. But before we get to all that, as always, need to thank our good friends over at Kalshi who are sponsoring today's video. For limited time, use code FANARCHCOLLEGE to get $10 when you trade 10. And please continue to support us here at Seminoles Daily every single day at 11 a.m. on YouTube, talking the Noles, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And let's talk a little bit about some of the good, as in what are the reasons Florida State we should feel good about the game tomorrow, this, other than the fact that, hey, it's New Mexico State and they're historically a down program. We're usually ranked in the bottom 100 plus of the FBS rankings. Well, beyond that, the natural just talent advantage that you should have, there is good reasons to feel confident in one Ashton Daniels because the New Mexico State defense, well, not exactly the elite pass rush of teams like the old Buffalo Bills in the '90s, the Eagles from a few years back, the LA Rams, etc. It is not an elite pass rush at all. They do not generate a whole lot of pressure, so there should be ample opportunities for Ashton Daniels in the pocket to step into his throws, to work on his feet, to work on his timing with his receivers in live game scenarios. And that edge just got a little bit bigger. As we mentioned, New Mexico State safety Iya Burnock, unfortunately, the young man will be out for the season with a lacerated liver. It just makes me just still hurt to think about that poor young man. Hopefully he can recover and get back. But the good news for Florida State, like we said, should provide some good opportunities for the likes of Deuce Robinson and Mekhi Danzy to really put up some big numbers. And also, again, for Mike Norvell to really kind of take advantage of a little bit of a, learning curve for his quarterback as he looks to throw the ball. On top of that, certainly want to expect to see some very good use of the running game for the Noles because New Mexico State's defensive line, like we said, the pass rush isn't great. The run stopping isn't much better. However, doesn't mean it's a complete dominant whitewash for FSU because there is reasons for New Mexico State to feel good, and that is, per most recent reports, Usman Kroma and Sam Singleton are both listed as questionable for the game Saturday night. That's your top two running backs for Florida State. Well, two of your top three running backs for Florida State. So expect them. Now it's questionable. It's not doubtful. They're not officially listed out. But given questionable and given the fact that this is a tune-up game and you got SMU the following week, expect to see very limited action for both of them. I would probably expect Cromot to maybe not really even see any action and Singleton to maybe get a few carries, which means if you're a New Mexico State fan, hey, you're going up against the bottom end of the depth chart there for Florida State. So expect Trey Wisner, who also has an injury history of his own, to get some touches, and then the likes of young men like Zay Parks and, of course, Amari Thomas to see some action there. Throw in a brand new Florida State offensive line, trying to work together, trying to be cohesive, trying to figure out checks and pools and communication. Certainly could be an advantage there for New Mexico State to try to bottle up the run and force Ashton Daniels to make some throws and maybe force a little bit of the turnovers because that is what New Mexico State does do very well. As we mentioned before, defensively, they really do a good job of getting the ball from the offense. And if they're bottling up the run, they're forcing Ashton Daniels, who has had some turnover issues of his own. We mentioned before, 11 picks 2 years ago, 12 picks 2 years ago, 11 picks the year before that, even had 2 picks in the limited starts over at Auburn. So there is going to be some opportunities, you would think, for the New Mexico State defense to, get the ball back and give a little bit of momentum. But overall, we're going to give the edge to Florida State on the offense for the talent advantages, the ability to throw the ball around on this secondary, and just the general advantage overall. That's why Florida State should feel good on offense heading into tomorrow. But speaking of feeling good, let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Mars Men. You see, no, look, I love a good dad bod. Who doesn't? This is the fall. It's dad bod season. It's always dad bod season, right? You're in your 40s, you're loving the dad bod. It shows confidence, it shows wisdom, it shows maturity, it shows some age, it shows comfortable ability in your skin. But that doesn't mean that you can't work on your own overall health and fitness and maybe shed a little bit of some of that dad bod and start to feel a little bit better about yourself, maybe coming around for the next summer. But the problem is, as we get older, body just doesn't snap back like it used to, man. It doesn't snap back like you did in your 20s. You're working out the same amount, eating mostly the same stuff, but the fat around the old stomach and the obliques just kind of sticks around. Now, a lot of you think, well, that's just the classic dad bod experience, just comes from drinking more beer or eating worse. But a lot of guys, it's actually not the whole story. As men, we get older, right? Our bodies reprogram themselves. We naturally start storing more fat, losing muscle faster. And the main reason for this is testosterone. Most men's testosterone levels start dropping as early as your 30s. And when that happens, it starts to become this really frustrating cycle, right? You gain more fat, the body turns that fat from testosterone into estrogen, makes it even easier to gain more fat and harder to lose. So it just becomes this vicious cycle turning around. That's why I said, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to start taking Mars Men. Mars Men's natural supplements designed to support healthy testosterone levels, which can help your body burn more fat efficiently and build lean muscle. You see, when your hormones are working the way they're supposed to, like we did in our early 20s, a lot of things get easier. Workouts, energy levels, staying lean. It's basically helping your body get back to running like it did back in your glory days. And there's no weird stimulants, there's no synthetic hormones, just real natural ingredients like Tonkat Ali, Shilajit, zinc, boron, and more that support healthy T levels, weight management, and exercise performance as well. And the quality, legit. It's made in the USA, third party tested, and now available at GNC nationwide. With Mars Men's, look, here's the truth. I've got more consistent energy, stronger lifts, better focus. It's helping me shed that dad bod, helping me impress the wife a little bit, and also improving with steady all day drive. I've got less cravings and better gym recovery. And the gym recovery, especially at this age, is such a key. You got to have that good recovery. And here's the other beautiful part. 90-day money back guarantee. So there's no risk. Worst case, you come to me, say, Rob, I don't like it, man. It's not really working for me. Cool. You get your money back. But I'm going to tell you right now, over 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website to see for yourself. And now, for a limited time, our listeners are getting 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Just tell them, hey, Fan Art sent you, and continue to support us here at Seminoles Daily and Mars Men. And now, speaking of support, we go to the other side. Who's got the edge there between the Florida State D and the New Mexico State offense? And well, look, let's be honest. We got some questions about this defense, right? And we got some questions about some key spots. We've mentioned before defensive end, we've mentioned before linebacker, and I think New Mexico State could certainly take advantage of a little bit of that miscommunication and the rust and the lack of cohesion early on. We mentioned before, Mr. Hedden, the quarterback, certainly a guy who is a big, strong dude, came over from Furman, big dude, dynamite QB, threw for 17 touchdowns last year, 3,000 yards. Certainly going to have his opportunities because they're going to throw the ball a lot. That's what New Mexico State is going to do. They're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to test the secondary, particularly the youth spots, particularly at safety, and a little bit at the corner spot. Really throw the ball around, really test the middle of the field to see if Florida State has fixed the issues at linebacker in the middle part of the field. They're going to put it up a lot. Now, the good news, though, as a Florida State fan, if we're really being honest, is that's really all they're going to do because they cannot run the ball at all. That's right. New Mexico State routinely ranking in the bottom of the rushing attack. Last year, they were near the absolute bottom. They just do not have a rushing game, a running game to speak of. There's no chance of Florida State biting on stuff. There's no, the play action's not going to be there. Like, there's a fairly good chance that I don't think New Mexico State really rushes for maybe even more than like 50, 60 yards, at least in real time. Well, not like non-garbage time. Again, we're just Florida State's significant edge there. So expect to see some big days from Kevin Wynn and the Desir twins living in that backfield. But again, the beauty of that also forces them to pass, means the secondary is going to have some opportunities, going to have some chances on their end to get those big, sexy picks and those big numbers that way as well, and kind of keep them all at bay. So that's kind of the big, big spots I really like to see to give Florida State the edge here on the defensive side. So Florida State's got the edge on offense and they've got the edge on defense. So how exactly do they go about really winning this game? The keys to victory are goals. Well, the first one is don't play with your food. Now, I'm going to say this. I think that Mike Norvell, if there's one thing I can give him, is that he did learn from the Jacksonville State fiasco back in 2021. Okay. If you go back to that, that absolutely, again, horrible performance, ugly loss, arguably the ugliest loss in the history of the program, a loss that in many ways has maybe sunk Mike Norvell's career in a lot of ways here at Florida State, because no matter how successful he was the last couple of years and how it's been, he's still the guy that lost to the 1AA FCS team. And he did that because he played with his food. Remember, they came out with Mackenzie Milton, who really just wasn't a competent quarterback anymore at this point, coming off the leg. They went for it on fourth down too many times. They had the Keyshawn Helton drop on the opening drive. They had the bad drop or the goal line stop where they went for it on fourth and goal from the one and they didn't get it because they ran a fade. They didn't just power it in. All those little things just throughout that game, it was an ugly, sloppy mess. And Mike Norvell did, I think, learn from that mistake. And the last several cupcake games, last year, East Texas A&M, Kent State, 2 years, Charleston Southern, UMass in 2021. Like, they have come out with a focus and an energy to put this team away and then work on stuff, right? Get up 3-4 scores, get up to a point where you feel confident. There's no way that this team has any ability to come back on us. Then we can work on things. So I think that's your first key, is come out with focus, come out with energy, and just do not give them any sort of real life. Now, the second key is, of course, don't turn the ball over. That's going to be a common key throughout the year. It's not rocket science when it comes to this game. Usually, if you win the turnover battle, usually you're going to win or going to come pretty close to winning or going to be competitive in the game. If you're +2, you're +3 in the turnover margin, usually it's going to be a good sign of success for you against an opponent, especially against a team like New Mexico State, who themselves do really good job at turning the ball or getting turnovers, but they also kind of tend to turn the ball over themselves. Like we talked about before, they had 26 turnovers last year. They turned the ball over 26 times last year. So definitely want to make sure that we are winning the turnover battle. That's going to be the biggest thing. And then the final key is just don't panic like you did against Jacksonville State. And that kind of ties back into one. It's just don't panic, okay? Because again, it's week 1 or it's week 0, excuse me. You haven't played a game in 8 months. You haven't had a preseason. This is your preseason. It's your tune-up. Your guys aren't familiar with game situations like this with each other because you got brand new players working together from various colleges and walks of life. So there's going to be a little bit of a rust factor at times, and maybe just maybe you wake up or you look up in late first quarter and it's 7-0 or it's 7-3, and you haven't quite clicked. That's when you can't panic. That's when you don't want to panic. You don't want to try to get cute. You don't want to start running Makai Danzy 3 reverses in a row and changing things up. You don't want to bench Ashton Daniels. You want to make sure that you're staying to your script, you're staying to your base, you're staying to your install, you're staying to your game plan, and you're not getting crazy, because when you panic, like you did against Jacksonville State, you leave that door open. That team plays with more confidence each time they get a stop or each time they get a good drive, etc. Just don't panic. Eventually, the cream will rise. Things will come to the top. You'll take advantage, and you will come away with a successful, dominant win. as long as you keep your focus and your drive. And now I want to talk a little bit more about that panic situation, because now let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Kalshi. You see, right now, Florida State, per that graphic, currently trading, 97% to 3% New Mexico State. Now, what's that mean on Kalshi? That means that if you are betting $100, your payout is going to be $101.98. And you're going to say, oh, Rob, great. I could just retire on that, right? That $1.98 payout. But here's the beauty part of Kalshi, right? Maybe, just maybe, that Florida State does have a little bit of panic. We're hoping not, but hey, it could happen. Maybe Ashton Daniels doesn't come out of the gates right away firing. Maybe he throws a bad pick, or maybe he has a bad fumble, and maybe Trey Hedden hits a big play, and all of a sudden New Mexico State's up 7-3 or 10-3, or maybe it's the middle of the second quarter and the panic is still kind of happening. You're going to see that 97% Florida State price drop down. It drops down maybe to 91, maybe to 90, maybe to 88. All of a sudden, it's starting to rise up a little bit more for New Mexico State. You can sell, or you can rebuy Florida State at maybe 88%, and that buyout just becomes a lot bigger, because you know in your heart of hearts that it's going to turn back towards Florida State. That Florida State's going to eventually find their footing. They're going to find the way they go, and they're going to come right back up and winning. And now that payout, that's $1.98. Now, guess what? Maybe it rises up a couple more dollars. And that's the beauty of Kalshi with everything, man. It's all about live action and feeling it. What's your vibe? How are you feeling the team's performance is going? And you can trade on that. And that's the beauty of it, because there's no house, there's no, buyout, or, early, options like that, like you're getting at FanDuel, or you're getting at, MGM, or any of those. It's just straight up trading live with peers, depending on the game flow, watching the game, because you're a fan, how games work, how the game flows work, the idea of momentum in the sport, and Kalshi allows you to basically bet on all of that. Please download the Kalshi app, use the code FANARCHCollege to get $20 when you trade $20, KALSHI, Kalshi, trade on anything. Now, time to talk about what we actually think is going to happen, and what we think it's going to play out, and who's going to win. And we're going to go with the Noles. We're not going to sugarcoat. We're not going to, be coy. This should, emphasis on should, be a good, clean, dominant cupcake feast win for Florida State. We do think there might be a little bit of rust, might be a little bit of a slow start, like it could be, we'll say like 10-0 after the first quarter, or still kind of 7-0 after the first quarter. Florida State's maybe moved the ball well, but they haven't quite, put together, a really good drive all the way. But by the second quarter, that's when everything really should start to turn. You start to see this game plan come to fruition. You start seeing the running game really open up. The lack of pass rush from New Mexico State, allowing Ashton to really find his groove. And Ashton, dude, when in doubt's going to throw it up to Deuce, is going to have a big day, or they'll get Mackay on the reverse, and Mackay's going to, take that to the house. So really, really think by the second quarter should probably be a 2-3 score advantage. Middle of the second quarter, halftime's probably going to be 4 scores, maybe like 28-0 or a 31-7 type of situation. That's what we're kind of hoping for. And then the second half, emptying the bench, getting the young pups some time and some action. Potentially New Mexico State could get some late garbage scores that could maybe give you a little bit of a backdoor cover situation. Last we saw, Florida State was minus 31, but a little bit of a backdoor situation. But, hey, that's just, the natural order of things. But we are going to say that Florida State, our official prediction, lock it in, Florida State 48, New Mexico State 13. Mike Norvell gets the first win of the season. Florida State gets their first win of the season, and they start out 1-0 for what we believe is the 4th time in the last 5 years of the Mike Norvell era. So, Noles 48, New Mexico State 13. Big win, big opening dub. Tune in for us Saturday night for our Winston. We're predicting a Winston reaction or an instant reaction either way. But that'll be Saturday night. Everybody else, please enjoy the rest of your Friday. Look forward to a fun football weekend. We will be back Sunday morning with our Winston reaction. Everybody, please take care. Have a great weekend. As always, with pride we say, go Noles.